Thou makes the process very long, quoth Penthe, to think it that, colour being cold by that time, mine anger might relent. But, sirs, he spake it out to his men, go take him by and by. With cruel torments out of hand go cause for him to die. Immediately they led away Acetes out of sight, and put him into prison strong, from which there was no flight. But while the cruel instruments of death, as sword and fire, were in preparing wherewithal to accomplish Pentheus' ire, it is reported that the doors did of their own accord burst open, and his chains fell off. And yet this cruel lord persisteth fiercer than before, not bidding others go, but goes himself unto the hill Cytheron, which, as though to Bacchus being consecrate, did ring of chanted songs, and other loud confused sounds of Bacchus' drunken throngs. And even as when the bloody trump doth to the battle sound, the lusty horse straight neighing out bestirs him on the ground, and taketh courage thereupon to assail his enemy proud. Even so, when Penthe heard afar the noise and howling loud that Bacchus frantic folk did make, it set his heart on fire, and kindled fiercer than before the sparks of settled ire. There was a goodly plain about the middle of the hill, environed with woods, where men may view each way it will. He, looking on these holy rites with lewd, profaned eyes, King Pentheus' mother first of all her foresaid son espies. And like a bedlam first of all, she doth upon him run, and with her javelin furiously she first doth wound her son. Come hither, sisters, come, she cried. Here is that mighty boar. Here is the boar that destroys our fields. Him will I strike therefore. With that they fall upon him as though they had been mad, and clustering all upon a heap fast after him they gad. He quakes and shakes. His words are now become more meek, and he now condemns his own default, and says he was too bold. And wounded as he was, he cries, help, and Autono, now for Actaeon's blessed soul some mercy show to me. She wist not who Actaeon was, but rent without delay his right hand off, and Ino tear his t'other hand away. To lift under his mother, though, the wretched hand hath ne'er an arm, but showing her his maimed corpse, and wounds yet bleeding warm. O mother, he says, with that agave howleth out, and writhed with her neck awry, and shook her hair about, and holding from his body torn his head in bloody hand, she cries, O fellows, in this deed our noble conquest stands. No sooner could the wind have blown the rotten leaves fro trees when winter's frost hath bitten them, then did the hands of these most wicked women Pentheus' limbs from one another tear. The Thebanes, being now by this example brought in fear, frequent this new-found sacrifice, and with sweet frankincense god Bacchus altars load with gifts, in every place do cense. Fini Tertii Libri. The fourth book of Ovid's Metamorphoses. Yet would not stout Alcithoe, Duke Menelaus' daughter, bow the orgies of this new-found god in conscience to allow, but still she stiffly doth deny that Bacchus is the son of Jove. And in this heresy her sisters with her run. The priest had bidden holiday, and that is well the maid is mistress, for the time aside all other business laid in buckskin coats, with tresses loose, and garlands on their hair, should in their hands their levy spears, surnamed the thyrsus, bear, foretelling them that if they did the god's commandment break, he would with sore and grievous plagues his wrath upon them wreak. The women, straight both young and old, do thereunto obey. Their yarn, their baskets, and their flax unspun aside they lay, and burn to Bacchus frankincense, who solemnly they call by all the names and titles high that may to him befall. As Bromius and Laius each, begotten of the flame, twice born, the sole and only child that of two mothers came, unshorn Theone, Nicias, Linnaeus, and the setter of vines, whose pleasant liquor makes all tables fair the better. Nice Nictilius and the Aelian sire, Iacchus, even each, with divers other glorious names that through the land of Greek to thee, O Liber, wanted are to be attributed be. Thy youthful years can never wast. There dwelleth I in thee a childhood, tender, fresh, and fair. In heaven we do thee see, surmounting every other thing, in beauty and in grace. And when thou stand'st without thy horns, thou hast a maiden's face. To thee obeyeth all the east as far as Ganges goes, which doth the scorched land of Indy with tawny folk enclose. Lycurgus with his twibble sharp, and Penthe, who of pride thy godhead and thy mighty power rebelliously denied, thou right redoubted didst confound. Thou into sea didst send the Tyrrhene shipmen. Thou with bits the sturdy necks dost bend of spotted lynxes. Throngs of froes and satyrs on thee tend, and that old hag, that with a staff his staggering limbs doth stay, scarce able on his ass to sit, for reeling every way. Thou comest not in any place, but that is heard the noise of gaggling women's tattling tongues and shouting out of boys, with sound of timbrels, tabors, pipes, and brazen pans and pots confusingly among the rout that in thine orgies trots. The Theban women for thy grace and favor humbly sue, and as the priest did bid, frequent thy rites with reverence due. A lonely Menelaus' daughter, bent of wilfulness, with working quite out of time to break the feast, are in their houses lurking, and there do fall to spinning yarn of weaving in the frame, and keep their maidens to their work, of which one pleasant dame, as she with nimble hand did draw her slender thread and fine, said, while others idly do serve the god of wine, let us that serve a better saint, Minerva, find some talk to ease our labor, while our hands about our profit walk. And for to make the time seem short, let each of us recite, as everybody's turn shall come, some tale that may delight. Her saying like to the rest, so well that all consent therein, and thereupon they pray that first the eldest would begin. She had such store and choice of tales, she wist not which to tell. She doubted if she might declare the fortune that befell to Docertes of Babylon, whom now with scaly hide and altered shape the Philistine believeth to abide in watery pools, or rather how her daughter, taking wings in shape of dove, on tops of towers in age now sadly sings, or how a certain water nymph, by witchcraft and by charms converted into fishes dumb, of young men many swarms, until that of the self-same sauce herself did taste at last. Or how the tree that used to bear fruit white in ages past doth now bear fruit in manner black, by sprinkling up of blood. This tale, because it was not stale nor common, seemed good to her to tell, and thereupon she in this wise begun her busy hand, still drawing out the flaxen thread she spun. Within the town, of whose walls so monstrous high and thick the fame is given to Semiramis for making them of brick, dwelt hard together two young folk, in houses joined so near that under all roof well nigh both twain conveyed were. The name of him was Pyramus, and Thisbe called was she. So fair a man in all the east was none alive as he, nor ne'er a woman maid nor wife in beauty like to her. This neighbour'd bred acquaintance first, this neighbour'd first did stir the secret sparks, this neighbour'd first an entrance in did show for love to come to that, to which it afterward did grow. And if that right had taken place, they had been man and wife, but still their parents went about to let which for their life they could not let. For both their hearts with equal flame did burn, no man was privy to their thoughts, and for to serve their turn, instead of talk they used signs. The closelier they suppressed the fire of love, the fiercer still it raged in their breast. The wall that parted house from house had riven therein a cranny, which shrunk at making of the wall. This fault not marked of any of many 100 years before, what doth love not espy? These lovers first of all found out, and made a way whereby to talk together secretly. And through the same did go their loving whisperings very light and safely to and fro. Now, as a tone side, Pyramus and Thisbe on the other stood often drawing, one of them the pleasant breath from other. O thou envious wall, they said, why lett'st thou lovers thus? What matter were it, if that thou permitted both of us in arms each other to embrace? Or if thou think that this were overmuch, yet mightest thou at least make room to kiss. And yet thou shalt not find us churls. We think ourselves in debt for the same piece of courtesy, in vouching safe to let our sayings to friendly ears thus freely come and go. Thus, having where they stood in vain complained of their woe, when night drew near, they bade adieu, and each gave kisses sweet unto the parted on their side, the which did never meet. Next morning, with her cheerful light, had driven the stars aside, and Phoebus, with his burning beams, the dewy grass had dried. These lovers, at their wonted place by fore-appointment met, where after much complaint and moan, they covenanted to get away from such as watched them, and in the evening late to steal out of their father's house, and each the city gate. And to think it that in the fields they strayed not up and down, they did agree at Ninus' tomb to meet without the town, and tarry underneath a tree that by the same did grow, which was a fair high mulberry, with fruit as white as snow, hard by a cool and trickling spring. This bargain pleased them both, and so daylight, which to their thought away but slowly goth, did in the ocean fall to rest, and night from thence doth rise. As soon as darkness once was come, straight Thisbe did devise a shift to wind her out of doors, that none that were within perceived her, and muffling her with clothes about her chin, that no man might discern her face, to Ninus' tomb she came unto the tree, and sat her down there underneath the same. Love made her bold. But see the chance, there comes besmeared with blood about a chaps a lioness all foaming from the wood, from a slaughter lately made of kine, to staunch her bloody thirst with water of the foresaid spring, whom Thisbe, spying first afar by moonlight, thereupon with fearful steps gained flee, and in a dark and irksome cave did hide herself thereby. And as she fled away, for hast she left her mantle fall, the which for fear she left behind, not looking back at all. Now when the cruel lioness her thirst had stanched well, in going to the wood she found the slender weed that fell from Thisbe, which with bloody teeth in pieces she did tear. The night was somewhat further spent ere Pyramus came there, who seeing in this subtle sand the print of lion's paw waxed pale for fear. But when also the bloody cloak he saw, all rent and torn, one night, he said, shall lovers two confound, of which long life deserved she of all that lived on ground. My soul deserves of this mischance the peril for to bear. I, wretch, have been the death of thee, which to this place of fear didst cause thee in the night to come, and came not here before. My wicked limbs and wretched guts with cruel teeth therefore devour ye, O ye lions, all that in this rock do dwell. But cowards used to wish for death. The slender weed that fell from Thisbe up he takes, and straight doth bear it to the tree, which was appointed erst in the place of meeting for to be. And when he had bewept and kissed the garment which he knew, receive thou my blood too, quoth he, and therewithal he drew his sword, the which among his guts he thrust, and by did draw it from the bleeding wound, beginning for to die, and cast himself up upon his back. The blood did spin on high, as when a conduit pipe is cracked. The water bursting out doth shoat itself a great way off, and pierce the air about. The leaves that were upon the tree, besprinkled with his blood, were dyed black, the root also bestained as it stood, a deep dark purple color straight upon the berries cast. Anon, scarce riddled of her fear, with which she was aghast for doubt of disappointing him, comes Thisbe forth in haste, and for her lover looks about, rejoicing for to tell how hardly she had scaped that night the danger that befell. And as she knew right well the place and fashion of the tree, as which she saw so late before, even so, when she did see the color of the berries turned, she was uncertain whether it were the tree at which they both agreed to meet together. While in this doubtful stound she stood, she cast her eye aside, and there, bewildered in his blood, her lover she espied, lie sprawling with his dying limbs, at which she started back, and looked pale as any box, a shuddering through her strack, even like the sea which suddenly with whistling noise doth move, when with a little blast of wind it is but touched above, but when approaching nearer him, she knew it was her love. She beat her breast, she shrieked out, she tare her golden hairs, and taking him between her arms, did wash his wounds with tears. She meant her weeping with his blood, and kissing all his face, which now became as cold as wise, she cried in woeful case, Alas, what chance, my Pyramus, hath parted thee and me? Make answer, O my Pyramus, it is thy Thisbe, even she whom thou dost love more heartily, that speaketh unto thee. Give ear and raise thy heavy head. He, hearing Thisbe's name, lift up his dying eyes, and having censor close the same, but when she knew her mantle there, and saw his scabbard lie without the sword, Unhappy man, thy love hath made thee die. Thy love, she said, hath made thee slay thyself. This hand of mine is strong enough to do the like. My love, no less than thine, shall give me force to work my wound. I will pursue the dead, and wretched woman as I am, It shall of me be said that like as of thy death I was the only cause and blame, so am I thy companion, each and partner in the same. For death which only could alas asunder part us twain shall never so dissever us, but we will meet again. And you, the parents of us both, most wretched folks alive, let this request that I shall make in both our names, by live entreat you to permit that we, whom chaste and steadfast love, and whom even death had joined in one, may, as it doth behove, in one grave be together laid. And thou, unhappy tree, which shroudest now the corpse of one, and shall anon through me shroud too, of this same slaughter hold the sicker signs for aye. Black be the color of thy fruit, and mourning like alway, such as the murder of us twain may evermore bewray. This said, she took the sword, yet warm with slaughter of her love, and setting it beneath her breast, did to her heart it shove. Her prayer with the gods and with their parents took effect, for when the fruit is thoroughly ripe, the berry is bespecked with color, tending to black, and that which after fire remained rested in one tomb, as Thisbe did desire. This tale thus told, a little space of pausing was betwixt, and then began Leucothoe thus, her sisters being wist. This sun, that with his streaming light all worldly things doth cheer, was ta'en in love of Phoebe's loves. Now list you, and you shall hear. It is reported that this god did first of all espy, for everything in heaven and earth is open to his eye, how Venus with the warlike Mars advutry did commit. It grieved him to see the fact, and so discovered it. He showed her husband Juno's son the advutry and the place in which this privy scape was done, who was in such a case that heart and hand and all did fail in working for a space. Anon he featly forged a net of wire so fine and slight, that neither knot nor noose therein apparent was to sight. This piece of work was much more fine than any hand warp oof, or that whereby the spider hangs in sliding from the roof, and furthermore, the subtleness and sleight thereof was such, it followed every little pull, and closed with every touch, and so he set it handsomely about the haunted couch. Now when that Venus and her mate were met in bed together, her husband by his new-found snare before conveyed thither did snarl them both together fast in midst of all their play, and setting ope the ivory doors called all the gods straightway to see them. They with shame enough fast locked together lay. A certain god among the rest, disposed for to sport, did wish that he himself also were shamed in that sort. The rest laughed, and so in heaven there was no talk awhile, but of this pageant, how the smith the lovers did beguile. Dame Venus, highly stomaching this great displeasure, thought to be revenged on the part by whom the spite was wrought. And like as he her secret loves and meetings had bewrayed, so she with wound of raging love his guerdon to him paid. What now avails, Hyperion son, thy form and beauty bright? What now avail thy glistening eyes with clear and piercing sight? For thou, that with thy gleams art wont all countries for to burn, art burnt thyself with other gleams that serve not for thy turn. And thou ought'st thy cheerful look on all things for to show, alonely on Leucothoe dost now the same bestow. Thou fastness on that maid alone the eyes that thou dost owe to all the world, sometime more wrath thou risest in the east, sometime again thou mak'st it late before thou fall to rest, and for desire to look on her thou often dost prolong our winter nights, and in thy light thou failest each among. The fancy of thy faulty mind infects thy feeble sight, and so thou makest men's heart afraid by daunting of thy light. Thou look'st not pale, because the globe of Phoebe is between the earth and thee, but love doth cause this colour to be seen. Thou lovest this Leucothoe so far above the other, that neither now for Clymene, for Rhodos, nor the mother of Circe, nor for Clytie, who at that present tide rejected from thy company did for thy love abide most grievous torments in her heart, thou seemest for to care. Thou mindest her so much that all the rest forgotten are. Her mother was Eurynome, of all the fragrant clime of Araby esteemed the flowers of beauty in her time. But when her daughter came to age, the daughter passed the mother as far in beauty as before the mother passed all other. Her father was King Orchamus, and ruled the public weal of Perse, counted by descent the seventh from ancient Bele. Far underneath the western clime of Hesperus do run the pastures of the fiery steeds that draw the golden sun. There they are fed with ambrosie instead of grass all night, which doth refresh their weary limbs, and keepeth them in plight to bear their daily labour out. Now, while the steeds there take their heavenly food, and night by turn his timely course doth make, the god, disguised in the shape of Queen Eurynome, doth priest within the chamber door of fair Leucothoe his lover, whom amid 12 maids he found by candlelight, yet spinning on her little rock, and went me to her right, and kissing her, as mothers used to kiss their daughters dear, said, Maids, withdraw yourselves a while, and sit not listening here. I have a secret thing to talk. The maids avoid each one. The god then being with his love in chamber all alone, said, I am he that meets the year, that all things do behold, by whom the earth doth all things see, the eye of all the world. Trust me, I am in love with thee. The lady was so nipped with sodden fear that from her hands both rock and spindle slipped. Her fear became her wondrous well. He made no more delays, but turned to his proper shape, and took his glistering rays. The damsel, being sore abashed at this so strange a sight, and overcome with sodden fear to see the god so bright, did make no outcry, nor no noise, but held her patience still, and suffered him by forced power his pleasure to fulfill. He did Clytie sore repine, for she beyond all measure was then enamored of the sun, and stung with this displeasure that he another leman had. For very spite and ire she plays the blab, and doth defame Leucothoe to her sire. He, cruel and unmerciful, would no excuse accept, but holding up her hands to heaven, when tenderly she wept and said, It was the sun that did the deed against her will, yet like a savage beast full bent his daughter for to spill, he put her deep in delved ground, and on her body laid a huge great heap of heavy sand. The sun, full ill, apaid did with his beams disperse the sand, and made an open way to bring thy buried face to light. But such a weight there lay upon thee, that thou couldst not raise thine head aloft again. And so, a corpse, both void of blood and life, thou didst remain. There never chanced in Phaeton's fire a thing that grieved so sore the ruler of the winged steeds as this did, and therefore he did attempt, if by the force and venture of his ray he might again to lively heat her frozen limbs convey. But, forasmuch as destiny so great attempts denies, he sprinkles both the corpse itself and place wherein it lies with fragrant nectar. And therewith, bewailing much his chance, said, Yet above the starry sky thou shalt thyself advance. Anon the body in this heavenly liquor steeped well did melt, and moisted all the earth with sweet and pleasant smell. And by, first taking root among the clods within, by little and by little did with growing top begin a pretty spark of frankincense above the tomb to win. Although that Clytie might excuse her sorrow by her love, and seem that so to play the blab her sorrow did her move, yet would the author of the light resort to her no more, but did withhold the pleasant sports of Venus used before. The nymph, not able of herself the frantic fume to stay, with restless care and pensiveness did pine herself away. Bare-headed on the bare ground, with flaring hair unkempt, she sate abroad both night and day, and clearly did exempt herself by space of thrice 3 days from sustenance and repast, save only dew, and save her tears, with which she brake her fast. And in that while she never rose, but stared on the sun, and ever turned her face to his, as he his corpse did run. Her limbs stack fast within the ground, and all her upper part did to a pale ash-colored herb, clean void of blood convert, the flower whereof, part red, part white, beshadowed with a blue, most like a violet, in the shape her countenance overgrew. And now, though fastened with a root, she turns her to the sun, and keeps in shape of herb the love with which she first begun. She made an end, and at her tale all wondered. Some denied her saying to be possible, and others some replied that such as are indeed true gods may all things work at will, but Bacchus is not any such. This arguing once made still, to tell her tales as others had, Alcithoe's turn was come, who with her shuttle shooting through her web within the loom said, Of the shepherd Daphne's love of Ida, whom erewhile a jealous nymph, because he did with lemons her beguile, for anger turned to a stone, such fury love doth send, I will not speak, it is too known. Nay, yet I do intend to tell how Scython, variably digressing from his kind, was sometime woman, sometime man, as liked best his mind. And Selmus also will I pass, who, for because he was clung most faithfully to Jupiter when Jupiter was young, is now become an adamant. So will I pass this hour to show you how the curates were engendered of a shower, or how that Crocus and his first love, his fair Similax turned were to little flowers. With pleasant news your minds now will I cheer, Learn why the fountain Salmacis defamed is of yore, why with his waters overstrong it weakeneth men so sore, that whoso bathes in him there comes thence a perfect man no more. The operation of this well is known to every wight, but few can tell the cause thereof, the which I will recite. The water nymphs did nurse a son of Mercury's and eyed begotten Venus, in whose face such beauty did abide, as well therein his father both and mother might be known, of whom he also took his name. As soon as he was grown 15 years of age, he left the country where he dwelt, and Ida that had fostered him. The pleasure that he felt to travel countries, and to see strange rivers with the state of foreign lands, all painfulness of travel did abate. He travelled through the land of Lycia to Cary, that doth bound next unto Lycia. There he saw a pool, to which the ground was crystal clear, no fenny sedge, no barren reek, no reed, no rush with pricking point was there, nor other moorish weed. The water was so pure and sheer, a man might well have seen and numbered all the gravel stones that in the bottom been. The utmost borders from the brim environed were with clowers, beclad with herbs, aye, fresh and green, and pleasant smelling flowers. A nymph did haunt this goodly pool, but such a nymph is neither to hunt nor run, nor yet to shoot had any kind of pleasure. Of all the water-fares she alonely was unknown to swift Diana. As the bruit of fame abroad hath blown, her sisters oftentimes would say, "Take lightsome dart or bow, and in some painful exercise thine idle time bestow." But never could they her persuade to run, to shoot or hunt, or any other exercise, as Phoebe's knights are wont. Sometime her fair well-formed limbs she batheth in her spring, sometime she down her golden hair with boxen comb doth bring, and at the water as glath she taken counsel how everything becometh her. Erewhile in fine array, or in soft sweet herbs, or soft green leaves, herself she nicely lays. Erewhile again, a gathering flowers, from place to place she strays, and as it chanced, the self-same time she was assorting gaze to make a poesy, when she first the young man did espy, and in beholding him, desired to have his company. But though she thought she stood on thorns until she went to him, yet went she not before she had bedecked her neat and trim, and pried and peered upon her clothes that nothing sat awry, and framed her countenance as might seem most amorous to the eye. Which done, she thus begun: "O child, most worthy for to be esteemed and taken for a god, if, as thou seemst to me, thou be a god, to Cupid's name thy beauty doth agree, or, if thou be a mortal wight, right happy folk are they, by whom thou camest in this world. Right happy is, I say, thy mother and thy sister too, if any be. Good hap that woman had that was thy nurse, and gave thy mouth her pap. By far, but far above the other, far more bliss than these, is she whom thou vouchsafest for thy wife and bedfellow for to be. Now, if thou already have one, let me by stealth obtain that which shall pleasure both of us. Or, if thou do remain a maiden free from wedlock bond, let me then be thy spouse, and let us in the bride lie bed ourselves together rouse." This said, the nymph did hold her peace, and therewithal the boy waxed red. He wist not what love was, and sure it was a joy to see how exceeding well his blushing him became. For in his face the colour fresh appeared, like the same that is in apples, which do hang upon the sunny side. That is in apples which do hang upon the sunny side, or ivory shadowed with a red, or such as a spied of white and scarlet colours mixed, appearing in the moon, when folk in vain with sounding brass would ease unto her dun. When at the last the nymph desired most instantly but this, as to his sister brotherly to give her there a kiss, and therewithal was clasping him about the ivory neck. Leave off, quoth he, or I am gone, and leave thee at a beck with all thy tricks. Then Salmacis began to be afraid. And to your pleasure leave I free this place, my friend, she said. With that she turns her back, as though she would have gone her way. But evermore she looketh back, and closely as she may, she hides her in a bushy queech, where kneeling on her knee she always hath her eye on him. He, as a child free, and thinking not that any wight had watched what he did, roams up and down the pleasant mead, and by, amid the flattering waves, he dips his feet, no more but first the sole, and to the ankles afterward both feet he plungeth whole. And for to make the matter short, he took so great delight in coolness of the pleasant spring, that straight he stripped quite his garments from his tender skin. When Salmacis beheld his naked beauty, such strong pangs so ardently her hilled, that utterly she was distraught. And even as Phoebus beams against a mirror pure and clear rebound with broken gleams, even so her eyes did sparkle fire. Scarce could she tarriance make, scarce could she any time delay her pleasure for to take, she would have run, and in her arms embraced him straightway. She was so far beside herself that scarcely could she stay. He, clapping with his hollow hands against his naked sides, into the water lithe and bane with armies displayed glides, and rowing with his hands and legs, swims in the water clear, through which his body fair and white doth glisteringly appear, as if a man in ivory image or lily white should overlay or close with glass that were most pure and bright. The price is won, cried Salmacis aloud. He is mine own. And therewithal, post-haste, she having lightly thrown her garments off, flew to the pool and cast her thereinto, and caught him fast between her arms, for aught that he could do. Yea, meagre all his wrestling and his struggling to and fro, she held him still, and kissed him 100 times and more. And willed he nailed her with her hands, she touched his naked breast, and now on this side, now on that, for all he did resist and strive to wrest him from her grasp, she clung unto him fast, and wound about him like a snake, which snatched up in haste, and being by the prince of birds borne lightly up, aloft, doth writhe herself about his neck, and griping talons oft, and cast her tail about his wings displayed in the wind. Or like as ivy runs on trees about the udder rind, or as the crabfish, having caught his enemy in the seas, doth clasp him in on every side with all his crooked clees. But Atlas' nephew still persists, and utterly denies the nymph to have her hoped sport. She urges him likewise, and pressing him with all her weight, fast cleaving to him still, strive, struggle, rest, and writhe, she said, Thou froward boy, thy fill, do what thou canst do, thou shalt not escape. Ye gods of heaven agree that this same wilful boy and I may never parted be. The gods were pliant to her boon. The bodies of them twain were mixed and joined in one. To both them did remain one countenance, like as if a man should in one bark behold 2 twigs, both growing into one and still together hold, even so when through her hugging and her grasping of t'other the members of them mingled were and fastened both together. They were not any longer two, but as it were a toy of double shape. Ye could not say it was a perfect boy, nor perfect wench. It seemed both and none of both to been. Now, when Hermaphroditus saw how in the water's sheen to which he entered in a man, his limbs were weakened so that out fro thence but half a man he was compelled to go, he lifteth up his hands and said, but not with manly rear, O noble Father Mercury and Venus mother dear, this one petition grant your son, which both your names doth bear, that whoso comes within this well may so be weakened there, that of a man but half a man he may fro thence retire. Both parents moved with the chance did stablish this desire, that which their double shaped son hath made, and thereupon infected with an unknown strength the sacred spring anon. Thank you for letting me read to you tonight. Please check the description for where to buy my art and my channel page for where to send me a one-time donation. My movie of Salome, my audiovisual presentation of Oscar Wilde's band play Salome is almost done. I swear, like in the next couple days I'll be posting it. So if you have not subscribed already, please subscribe so that you will get that. And I will see you tomorrow.